Hi, welcome to Camp Happy Mail. I'm so glad that you decided to join me today. So this right here is my big box of already colored images. These are images that I colored previously that I resort to whenever I need a quick card, but I don't have time to do all the coloring. I'm sure many of us have a box of images that are already colored like this. So I am in need of a birthday card, and I picked out this cute image. This image was a digital image. I'm not sure if I'll be able to find it again, but I'll try. I am going to use a card sketch for today's card. In my binder here, I have sketches by Operation Right Home and also by Jess Crafts. The sketch I'm looking at is by Jess Crafts, but I'm not going to use her sketch in the way that you normally would. I am just making one of these. Normally her sketches are set up that you can take a 6x6 sheet of paper and make multiple cards, usually 2 or 3 from one 6x6 and not have any leftovers. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use her sketch just as though it was a regular sketch, and I'm mostly going to make this card from scraps. So let's get started. Whenever I'm making a card from an image that I've colored previously, I do my best to try to pick out papers that will match the colors that I used. Most of my images were colored with Copic markers, and I've found that Stampin' Up! Paper really does match a lot of the shades that I have. Totally a fluke. I didn't plan it that way. I had my Copic markers before I got my Stampin' Up! Paper. But regardless, so I'm just going through my scrap papers of my Stampin' Up! Paper. I've got 3 shades of pink here. I believe it's probably Magenta Madness, Melon Mambo, and maybe Polished Pink. Regardless, it doesn't matter what the shades really are. The main thing you want to do is try to match what's on your image so everything is cohesive. So I'm trying to find some paper, some scraps in here. I really don't want to cut full sheets because I do have a lot of scraps. So I'm just trying to find some scraps that might work for the sizes that I need for the sketches. So I'm going to go ahead and measure these out to see if I need to maybe trim these down or find other pieces. And that pink rectangle there, that one on the bottom, I'm going to have to trim that one down as well as the other one, I believe. But basically, I need 3 strips that are roughly the same size. And it looks like I'm going to go with 2 that are the same color and the lighter pink one, which again, I'll have to cut down. So now that I've got my 3 strips that are all the same width, I got to thinking that it's going to look kind of plain. So I thought maybe I would pull out some embossing folders and maybe give some texture to some of these. I have quite a selection of embossing folders, and I just was looking for something that was fun. Just some basic shapes. And this one by Cuttlebug, which came with my original Cuttlebug, it has dots on it. And I thought, you know what, dots or circles would be a really good match because there are dots or circles on this clown's outfit. And I knew that I had another embossing folder in here that had circles on it. I just got to find it. I've got way too many embossing folders. But you know what? I love embossing folders. They're inexpensive. They're great for adding texture and dimension and just a little something extra to your cards. I consider them a good investment. So I don't really mind that I have this many of them, and I'm actually happy that I have this many because then I have quite a selection. So I've decided to go with the one that's the circles, and I'm just checking to make sure that that is the one I want. Yep, that's the one I'm going to go with. So we're going to go ahead and emboss those 3 stripes and give them a little bit of circle texture, and that will also help to pull the image in because of the circles on the little clown's outfit. So now we've got the Big Shot. You know, I love my Big Shot. It is a workhorse of a machine. I still have my original Cuttlebug too, which is over 20 years old. And it wasn't as complicated as the Big Shot, but I do love the Big Shot. But man, oh man, I can never remember what the sandwiches are for all the different things. So I'm trying to figure out which sandwich do I need to do these Cuttlebug embossing folders. These are just 2D embossing folders. They are not the 3D ones. These are the skinnier ones. So I got to figure out the sandwich for these. So we'll get this figured out here in a second. Yeah, so does anyone else have that trouble? Does anyone else struggle with the Big Shot and the different sandwiches? And I really wish that all the companies would make things just universal. You know, if you're going to make an embossing folder that's the old one, you make it this size. If you're going to make a 3D embossing folder, it's this size or this thickness. If you're going to make a die, it's got to be this thickness. It would make it a lot easier on our brains. So I figured out what sandwich I need, and I'm going to go ahead and put my pieces of paper into this embossing folder. So now I am going to have to emboss these just 2 at a time and then one separately, because the platform or the embossing folder is less than 6 inches across, and all 3 stripes won't fit in there at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and run these 2 through and give them that nice circle texture. I just love this embossing folder. I don't know if this one's still available or not. I'll try to find it, but I've used it an awful lot. It's just so versatile, and it's great for like birthday cards because it's just a happy pattern. So there's the first 2, and then I'm going to go ahead and run this last one through by itself. So now that all those panels are cut and embossed, we're going to go ahead and start to assemble this card. This is just a standard A2 size card base. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. You can easily make these yourself using a sheet of letter size cardstock, just cut in half. So basically, I'm going to lay these pieces out, and then I'm going to realize real quick that my stripes are a little bit too wide. I'm not actually following Jess Craft's sketch to a T as far as the measurements go. So I'm going to need to trim these down a little bit, just widthwise, to get them to fit onto the base the way that I need them to. So I start out with the Stampin' Up! Trimmer. It's a great little trimmer. It's really, really nice. It usually cuts pretty nice, but it's a little bit large for these pieces. I always have trouble cutting smaller things on this trimmer, and so I'm debating with myself right now, do I want to try this? Am I going to be able to hold these down enough to be able to cut them straight? And I decide no. So I pull out this cute little trimmer. Now this trimmer is by Dress My Crafts. I saw May using this one, and I thought, you know what, that's the perfect size. It's like a 3-inch trimmer. And it's a lot easier to hold this strip down whenever you're cutting it, especially when they're this small. And so I resort to using this for a lot of small things. And that way I can cut just a small sliver off of each of the pieces that I need. So we're going to go ahead and finish cutting these, and then we'll try that placement again. With all of the stripes now cut down just a little bit from what they were before, they do fit much better on the card panel, and I'm really happy with that. So I'm just going to go ahead and lay these out just one last time just to be sure before I start to glue them down. And I started thinking that this still kind of looked a little bit plain to me. And I wasn't sure what to do about that, so I thought about it for a minute and decided that maybe I should mat the image of the clown. So I have some pink glitter paper here. I believe that this glitter paper, this is either Memory Box or it's scrapbook.com. I'll try to link it below if I can find it again. But I thought maybe this would help jazz it up a little bit if I put some glitter paper behind it. And this glitter paper does not shed. That's the beautiful thing about this paper. So I do need to trim this down to make a nice mat out of it. And I just did that. And now I'm going to lay it on top just to make sure this is what I want it to look like. Now, if you've been a card maker for any amount of time, and if you've used metallic papers or glitter papers or any kind of specialty paper, you know that those papers are a little bit pricey. So here I'm going to show you a neat little trick that I do. Some people may say that this is, being cheap, but to me it's being frugal. So I want to get the most out of that piece of paper that I can. And because the image is going to cover the biggest portion of it, I really only need a frame. So I've got a die, and it's just a basic rectangle die by Hero Arts. And I will link the set below that this came from. But I'm just checking to see, can I cut a centerpiece out of this glitter paper to maybe use on another project? And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I do this a lot on my cards if I'm using specialty paper, because that's a whole big centerpiece that you don't need to just have hidden with an image. So what you do is you find a rectangle that will give you enough space that you'll at least have a matting frame. You run it through your die cut machine, you cut out the centerpiece, And then we're going to replace that centerpiece with just a piece of plain white scrap cardstock. That way, when you mount your image on top of it, you won't have, it won't sag in the middle. Nobody will ever know that you did this. So I'm using the same rectangle die that I used on the pink glitter paper to also cut the rectangle out of the white scrap paper. That way they are exactly the same size and the white rectangle will fit inside of that pink frame. And now I'm just going to take and turn the pink frame over, and we're just going to use basic Scotch tape to hold this together. That'll hold just fine. You don't need any fancy tape for this. Nobody is ever going to see this part because this is the back side of this will actually be glued down to your card base. So once we get this all taped up, then we're going to flip it over and put our image on top of it. So you'll be able to see that this is the perfect trick for saving some of your specialty paper, because all that will show is just the frame. So now let's finish assembling the rest of this card. So to line up these stripes on here and get them all straight, I'm going to use my L square. I know a lot of people use a T square, but I thought that an L square would be more helpful, so that's why I got an L square instead of a T square. You can certainly just use a regular ruler or a T square or an L square, whatever you want to use. You just need to use something that you're going to be able to line up all of your stripes evenly on the tops and the bottoms. And I happen to prefer the L square. And so we're going to go ahead and start to glue these down. I am using Barely Arts glue on these. You can use any kind of glue that you have. It doesn't really matter. You can even use tape runner or tear and tape or whatever. I like the Barely Arts glue because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room, which is great for this kind of a card, because trying to get these stripes perfectly spaced and perfectly even, and because I eyeball everything, it's nice to have that little bit of wiggle room. So as you can see here, I'm using my L square to try to make sure that I get all of them lined up on the bottoms, and I'm doing the outer two stripes first. That way I can center the middle stripe in between the two outer ones, and hopefully they'll be pretty even. So I'm going to glue this last stripe down here, and then I'm going to measure it up one more time just to make sure that all of my stripes are straight on here before I adhere that front panel to it. Just a simple check with that L square to make sure that the sides and the bottom and the top are straight, and I think we're good to go. So now for this panel, I am going to pop this up with some dimensionals or some foam squares. Here's a tip for you. So the dimensionals, they have an outer frame on them. The dimensionals are by Stampin' Up, but they have an outer frame that has longer pieces of foam on them, and you can easily cut up those foam pieces to use for long strips on your panels like this, as you can see here. Now I lost some of the footage showing me actually putting those pieces on there, and I'm just adding the last couple of bits of dimensionals on here. So basically, if you're using dimensionals by Stampin' Up, you can use every single bit of the foam that is on those sheets, and nothing goes to waste. So there's a strip there. So that's all of the pieces, and this is our final card. I'm super happy with how this came out. It was pretty easy to do, and for it being a pre-colored image and some scraps of paper and some specialty paper, I think it turned out pretty cute, and I hope the recipient likes it. So that's my card for today, and I'm glad that you were here today to join me for this one, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.